Well, God bless you one and all, and welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise right here in the heart of Brooklyn. And certainly we do have a special program for you tonight. We are talking about the difference between courting and dating. The difference between courting and dating. We just want to thank God for the Bishop's Corner and for the man of God himself, Philip Reed, who happens to be the owner and the CEO of Phoenix National Business Group. And Dr. Phil is doing a tremendous job, and we do thank him for that. We want to thank God tonight for the panel that we do have on tonight. We thank God, of course, for the lovely, the delightful Reverend Dr. Heather Francis that is with us. Woman of God, always a pleasure, looking well. We want to thank God also for the man of God himself, the Apostle Lucien Rojas, that is with us. God bless you, man of God, always a pleasure indeed. Let's go all the way up north to the man of God himself, my friend, the Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston is in the house. We applaud you, man of God. Thank you very, very much. Back to Brooklyn, and you all know that good things, great things come from Brooklyn, and we want to thank God for Pastor Richard McKenzie Jr. that is with us tonight. Man of God, certainly a pleasure. We are blessed tonight in having a wonderful woman of God, Whitney Colbrin, and she is the love coach, and she'll be answering all these questions tonight for us, the expert when it comes onto dating. Thank you very much, Whitney, for weighing in tonight. Well, before we should begin tonight, I just want to thank those of you that were with us last week, Friday, our first anniversary, the first year anniversary of the Bishop's Corner. We had a fantastic time. On a scale from 1 to 10, we are talking about a 20. It was off the hook. It was off the chain. It was fantabulous, fantastic. If the first one was so great, then just imagine the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. And we believe that things certainly are going to get better for the Bishop's Corner. And thank God also for the great panel, my God, that came out, and we had a fantastic time. People are talking about it all over the world. That's no exaggeration now. All over the world. So let me say this, that the best certainly is yet to come. Well, the topic tonight is the difference between courting and dating, the difference between courting and dating. And the first question that I would like to put to the Right Reverend Dr. Heather Francis, and then the panel will weigh in, is there a big difference, woman of God, between dating and courting? How say you?
Well, good evening, everyone. First, I must give honor to the producer, Dr. Phil. Thank you for always allowing us to come on this platform and for your vision for this program. Also, I want to greet the host, Bishop Scott. God bless you, and everyone on the panel. Great topic. We have discussed it before, but I believe tonight we're going to be a little bit more honest. We've been honest, but we're going to be even more honest tonight. But we're also going to reveal what we feel. And so when it comes to dating and courtship, I personally believe that dating is more of a social aspect, and I would like us to dispel what we feel is something that the world has done, which the world has attached the physical part to dating, or the intimate part to dating. And as a pastor and as someone who mentors young women in ministry, I have taught the young women that I mentor personally that there has to be a separation between that intimate part of you when it comes to dating, because dating is a social aspect. You meet people every day. If you're a young lady and you meet a young man in a social aspect, have coffee, have tea, you go out, you go to the movies, so dating is more of a social thing. But when it comes to courtship, there is an intention there that, this is the person, the only person that I would like to spend time with. And there's a future. There's something more than just being social with everyone else. And we're going to lead to marriage. And of course, there has to be boundaries that are set as a Christian dating, because I know that our demographic, as far as people who watch us, they're Christians. And so for me, I would say for young ladies and young men, set boundaries for yourself and cherish what you're going to have with your husband or with your wife, and save those times of intimacy, because it's such a beautiful thing that God has given you, that you can give yourself to someone else. And I don't want the lines to be so blurred that we're not honest about it. And yes, I know someone is going to say, oh, but Pastor Heather, young people are having sex. Well, not all of them are. And I'm so blessed to be in a church where I have young people that I'm very close to, that they've made a commitment. And I've gone so far as to, I do purity rings with the young ladies. I take them shopping and I actually spend decent money, and I give them purity rings to wear on their right hand, this finger. And it just kind of symbolizes that, yes, I'm going to date, because the Bible says he that finds a wife finds a good thing. So if you have to find someone, that means there has to be a searching, right? You have to search in order to find. But what does that look like now in 2021? It's dating apps. So you're online and you're looking at people and you're answering questions so that you can find out if you're a good match with someone. And so when you start socializing with these young men or young women, you're not going to open yourself up right away. But what you would do is just find out how compatible you are. And so you begin that process of socializing. So there is a difference between going from that sea of women or the sea of men in dating to finding someone that you're compatible with and you have that connection. Because believe it or not, guys, and I'm big on talking about physiologically. I have to get it out there. There is a difference when it comes to when you attach yourself to someone. There's dopamine that is released in your body. There's oxytocin that is released in your body. And the more you spend time with that person, is the greater the levels get in your body. And so you want to spend more and more and more time with that person. And if you find yourself getting to that place, then you need to go from dating to courtship. And you also have to be careful, because when that dopamine and when that adrenaline begins to get released in your body, yes, it's natural. It's going to happen, guys. We're human beings. But we also have something called self-control. And it is something that comes from the Holy Spirit. I cannot leave God out of the equation. God gives us the ability to control ourselves. And so when you're out here dating, I don't know if you're younger and you're single or you're older and you're single, that same self-control has to be exhibited whether you're 25 or you're 55, like me. You still have to have boundaries that you set. You still have to have what your do's and your don'ts based on your belief system as a Christian and as a child of God. There's certain things you're not going to do, because you're not going to allow yourself to be so physiologically affected that you can't even think straight. You ever heard the term that says I'm head over heels in love? Well, that's a real thing. You know why? Because the dopamine that is released from your brain and the oxytocin really makes you have a feeling of euphoria. This is all proven science, guys. Things happen when you fall in love. So when you see that 32, 34, 22, 36 woman, the Coca-Cola coming towards you, and you get excited because you've been on 10 dates, listen, it is normal for you to feel that way. But you have to remember that you have to set boundaries, because during courtship, remember now, you're going to go from dating to courtship. And so when you're in that courtship stage, you're going to have to set the boundaries so that you can still develop that attachment. learn to sacrifice with each other, get to know each other on a deeper level, but still set boundaries so that, God forbid, things don't work out. You don't have, all of that you've sacrificed along with your emotions and your feelings. So, Bishop, there's a difference. There's a big difference between the social aspect of dating and when you get to the stage of courtship, and now there is an intention for a future, and it does affect you physically, emotionally. It does affect your body. Your body reacts more than you realize, and you've got millions of neurons in your body, and I have the science to prove it.
Question, Dr. Heather. Let me ask you a personal question. How do you feel about Christian dating sites?
Well, I think they're great. I mean, times have changed. I believe that relationships have evolved. Back in Bible days, you would have Abraham or someone go send a relative to go find you a wife or a husband. Now we have dating apps. However, I did some research on some dating apps, and I found out that a lot of people, 77% actually, of the people who are on dating apps, they find themselves becoming obsessed with going on to see who like their pictures and if they connect with someone. It's an obsessive trend that's going on right now. However, times have changed. And so how do we say it? We say the message hasn't changed, but the method has. So you still have to find a wife, which is a good thing, but how you go about it now has changed. But as a child of God, I'm going to continue to say it. You have to set boundaries, and you have to have a standard in how you do things. And I don't see anything wrong with praying. If you see someone on a dating app and the two of you connect, you begin to text back and forth. Maybe you have a phone call or a FaceTime. There's nothing wrong with you stopping and saying, listen, I need to pray about this, or you don't even have to say it. But in your own prayer and devotion time, saying, Lord, is this the right person for me? Listen, things have changed, but prayer still works and God is still speaking.
Thank you. Well said. Apostle, how do you feel, sir? Is there a big difference between dating and courting?
Good night to everyone, and it is so good to be on tonight. Thank God for everyone that's on the panel tonight. God bless you. And I'm still enjoying and thinking about the experience that we had on last Friday. It was a tremendous blessing. It's different from being on Zoom, as being in the flesh and touching each other. And the fellowship was really, really tremendous. I also want to say that Bishop Wolliston is a dynamic host. If I were to choose host of the year, I would give it to him. He is just kind and gracious, and you make us felt so much at home. And that's what Christianity is all about. It's not just preaching on the pulpit. Somebody once said, God doesn't only dwell in us, he dwells between us. And at the end of the day, it's how we treat one another. And my wife and I, we felt so at home with the people. They were warm and cordial. And I just love the Bishop Corner. We are going places. Well, tonight, certainly, there's a difference between dating and courtship. If I may say, my days for dating is probably over. Not probably, but I'm married, so I'm not into dating, But I'm a pastor. I have people in the church that would want to be interested in the opposite sex. And that's natural and normal. The Bible said it's not good for man to be alone. And we are wired that way for relationship and friendship and companionship, and dating. I know we are here in America and in the Western world, but in different countries, they do it differently. I think in the Indian culture, my wife, she is working with a girl that's from India, and she never get to date or court. The mother and father made arrangement. And that was it. And sometimes these marriages, it lasts. I mean, different cultures, different things. Some culture, I was in South Africa many times, they have what you call la bola. When you're going to marry that girl, you're going to have some cows, and you're going to have some money, and you're going to have some things to give to the family, and so forth and so on. But in the Western world, we have certainly evolved, and time has changed. But I really concur with Dr. Heather. that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And God have his standards, and his standards does not change. But dating is like more testing the waters. And I think dating should be fun, and folks should really enjoy it. Of course, there are boundaries. And while we believe in God providing, there's also a scripture that says, seek and he shall find. And nothing wrong in seeking. Nothing wrong with being attracted to somebody. That's not sinful or carnal or materialistic. People are attracted to other people. That's pretty much normal. But in the context of Christianity, dating, I think some folks agree and believe people should date, and some say, well, dating is not for Christians. But time has certainly changed. It is said that over $3 billion is spent globally annually on dating sites. And in my time, we didn't even have cell phones and computers when I grew up. So, I remember I was dating this girl, and I would have to travel, and in the night, dogs barking and rushing you, and back in the islands, and it's dark out there, and that's the kind of era and time that I grew up in. But now time has changed, and people are seeing each other on an app. You in California, I'm in New York, and we talking and we communicating. So it's certainly a different era. But yeah, dating is for like more testing the waters, more fellowship and going for a cup of coffee, seeing if there's an attraction, seeing if the person has a sense of humor, seeing if you're comfortable with the person, and so forth and so on. But courtship now is on a different level. Courtship is where I'm making a commitment, not in terms of marriage, but I'm seeing you, you seeing me, and we block everybody else out, and we want to take this to the next level, to a level of future spending our lives together. And so it's a more committed relationship where there is courtship. There's something called love, courtship, and marriage. And you have to know the person. Knowing someone is with spending time with them. And we on the Christian circles here, we don't believe in sex before marriage. That's one of the tenets of the Christian faith. But someone out there in the world, it's a different standard. So Christian dating, unsaved dating, different cultures, I think it's certainly different from dating. Is where you have a casual, you go to the movie or a cup of coffee, you go to the mall or whatever. But courtship is where it's more serious. You take it to the next level, and ultimately it leads to marriage.
Thank you very much, man of God. Well said indeed. It's been said that dating is more like a comma, and courtship is like a full stop. Okay, Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston, man of God, how say you?
Bless you, Bishop, and to my fellow panelists, and to, of course, Dr. Phil. Want to repeat the sentiments of Apostle Rojas last weekend. It was really, really wonderful. And again, our host already made mention. We appreciate everyone who took the time and to come by and celebrate. So yeah, God is really amazing. Yeah, definitely a good topic again. But before I go further, I just want to echo the sentiments of Dr. Heather in regards to dating apps. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's a good thing, because really, let's think about this. If you want to find a restaurant in a new area, in a new town that you're in, the first thing you do, you jump on Google or what have you, you find, or a car wash, or even a church. So we have to use the tools that are available to us. Not everybody's going to have the experience like myself or Bishop or whoever, where you see a young lady wherever, so let's not limit our options, because that's not how my dad got married or my mom got married. Use what is available to you. And of course, with discretion and prayer, I think it's definitely a good thing. All right. So in regards to dating and courting, I believe, I would say like Dr. Heather, dating is definitely more social, recreational, not reckless, recreational or social, whereas courting to me is more intentional, because in courtship, both people enter into a relationship with the intention, courtship, with the intention of marriage. In dating, not necessarily so. for one or more individuals may not be ready for marriage at that time. They may just want someone to kick it with, as the young people say, or to try to see if we vibe. Yeah, I know what that is. You know what I mean? Some might just want to be with someone because it's a cure for loneliness, you know, or they may, in dating, they may focus mainly on what can I get out of this thing? Can I get fun or sex, free meals, or vacation, or what have you? You know, so in dating, there can be also a lot of confusion. Whereas in courting, there's clarity. We know where we're going. It's very clear that the two people in the relationship, they know what they're going, they know what their intentions are, the status of the relationship, they know where we are in regards to courting. So whether you're a couple or not, whether you're seed people or not, whether are you exclusive in courting, what does it mean when you take me home to meet your mom, or I take her home? What does that mean? Intentions are clear. In dating, because there's no true definition, then it can lead to frustration. So that's very, very, very important. Dating rarely includes accountability, very rarely. Whereas courtship is generally done in a community, whether you're church folk or your family, it's not in a closed kind of thing. Okay, everybody knows that these two individuals, they're courting or what have you. You know, so it's more of a community kind of thing. In dating, because there's no true definition, it can lead to confusion. Dating rarely includes accountability. Think about this. Dating rarely includes accountability, whereas courtship is usually done where it's not a secret anymore. Everybody knows, because again, what are the intentions? Eventually, we're going down the road. We're hoping to be married. In dating, one or both individual can keep secrets because they're not sure where the relationship is going. And that's quite understandable. I'm not going to put everything out there. I don't know where this thing is going to go. I don't know if 3 weeks or 3 months or the fourth date, we're going to say, you know what, this is not working out. So now you know all my, not that I'm keeping secrets, but you know everything about me, what maybe you shouldn't know. So we can keep secret. Whereas in courtship, both people are on a similar path. There's no secrecy, no hiding. There's no, I'm hiding this over here and so forth. You're committed. You're held into a responsible setting because now you are courting. Dating often follows practices in the world. Dr. Helen mentioned that, and we're not knocking them. This is what we do, and this is what they do. That's why they are them and we are we. And we know that we're supposed to be separate. Dating often follows the practices in the world, and we're not knocking them. We're just stating the fact. Whereas courtship follows the principle of the word. So you have the world and you have the word, the practices of the world and the principles of the word. As believers, as Christian people of faith, we resort to, or we follow the principles of the word, not the practices of the world. The world says, try it before you buy it. And my thing is, what if when I try it, I don't like it? It's not like a car, you can bring it back. It's not like a pair of shoes or a dress. Where's your receipt? Oh, okay, good. Now you can put it back on the rack. Try it before you buy it. Again, what if you try it and you don't buy it? Then what happens then? So in courtship, because both people value the relationship and where it's going, they don't enter into a situation where it jeopardizes their relationship. So yeah, there's a big difference between courting and dating. Just a couple more. So we're going to put in courtship healthy boundaries. In dating, we may not have any boundaries at all, making the relationship less valuable. In courtship, breakup and disappointments may happen, but in dating, breakup and disappointment can lead to devastation. In courtship, it'll only lead to disappointment, but in the breakup of dating, it can be devastating because the lines were blurred. We weren't sure where we're going. And here I've given myself, or she's given herself. Now, he tried it. He didn't like it. He's definitely not buying it. Where does that leave you, particularly with the female? not to knock the female as such. So where there's no real commitment, there's no real conversation about where the relationship is going. What direction do you want it to go in? Worse, if you're having sexual relationship with a person, when you break up, it can lead to devastation, trust issues. Dr. Helen mentioned that, baggages that you take into the next relationship. Why? Because the pain that you've experienced in this past relationship that was just in dating, not courting, because you didn't have a clear path as to where you were going. So yeah, there is a big difference. And I know I've said a lot. I'm hopeful that someone will really take what I'm saying or what we're saying and make it applicable if you're in that arena. When you're courting someone, having regular conversation, even if the relationship don't work out, you can move on. It may be disappointed, but you respect the other person because boundaries were set and followed, because you didn't feel used and violated. Thus, if you have a breakup, it's just a disappointment. It's not a devastation. And we all know, not experientially, but by way of being pastors and leaders, we've experienced people who have gone into a situation where disappointments become devastation, and it's hard to get over. So lastly, I always say, I look for your IRA. No, not your financial thing. Your IRA is your intention in courtship. What are your intention? Are how responsible are you? You courting to lead to marriage. A, accountability. Who are you accountable to? In dating, you're accountable to nobody. But when you're courting, you've got to be intentional. You have to be responsible because you're taking on somebody's life and emotion, and that's no joke. And you have to be accountable. So yes, Bishop, there's definitely a difference.
Man of God, you certainly sound like a professor. God bless you. Well answered indeed. But let me ask you a question, man of God. You said something very, very important there. So let me ask you this question. Why is courting or the courting period important, especially for a Christian? Why is it important for a Christian?
It's important because you've passed the dating zone, if you will. Now you're going into the commitment zone. Trust issues, emotions are involved here, and even feelings, natural. Dr. Heather, Apostle Rojas mentioned feelings that you just can't control. You can't reverse the feeling and go back to dating. I don't feel nothing no more. Now you're courting, Bishop. Feelings are involved. And as a female or even as a male, okay, you're looking a year down the road, what color dress or what color rather tuxedo, how you want you're going places with this thing, Bishop. It's very, very important. If you're not careful and you're strong in your faith and this thing falls apart, it could affect your relationship with Christ to a degree that you might even want to not be bothered with this marriage thing or even this faith thing because of how you were dealt a bad hand or the experience because you thought this was Mr. Right, and then find out that he really out of sight.
Well said indeed, man of God. A few weeks back, I had the opportunity of preaching a particular message from Matthew chapter 1. And it was pertaining to Joseph and Mary and the relationship that they were having. And one of the things that stood out is this: when Joseph found that Mary was pregnant. Remember that a Jewish courtship, now this is something more like a marriage that's already taken place in a sense. And he found that she was pregnant. Now, the principles that he had told him, well, listen, I cannot marry you. And if he was to make it public according to the law, she would be stoned to death. So here is a man that lived by the certain ethics, his culture, that way in which he was brought up. Can't marry you, cannot marry you. But discretion says, I will not put you away publicly, or else that will result in your death. In every relationship, we need principles and we need discipline, especially when you're dating and especially when you're courting. The man was also somewhat sensitive. It's been said that we men are not sensitive, but listen, we are sensitive. He treated her the way in which he wanted to be treated. He was very, very sensitive. Not just that, but he was also responsive to God in the sense that the Lord revealed to him a couple of nights ago, no, not a couple of nights ago, thousands of years ago, okay, that what's in Mary, your wife, is of the Holy Spirit. So don't be afraid to take her to be your wife. And he responded to God. He responded to God by marrying her while she was pregnant. But it does not end there. The Bible tells me that the man was so disciplined that the man did not touch her until she had brought forth her first child, and so forth. So there's certain ingredients that is in the scripture. Meanwhile, people are quoting that we indeed, my God, can extract. And it teaches us a lot. The question is, Pastor McKenzie, is there a big difference between dating and courting?
Bless you, Bishop Scott, and to the panel. God bless each and every one of you. And of course, to our special guest, Whitney, God bless you as well. I also want to echo the sentiment about the awesomeness of our 1-year anniversary last week. It was awesome to see everyone in person rather than virtually. Amen. I didn't have to mute and unmute myself last week, so it was amazing. And obviously also thanks to Dr. Phil and of course Bishop Wolliston again for being such a gracious host. Amen. And a gracious individual. The Aki and Salt Push was amazing as well. Thank you, sir. Amen. So the question is there a big difference between dating and courting? My fellow panelists have done a wonderful job in breaking this down from a biblical perspective. And that is the perspective that we have to go by, especially as leaders in the gospel, leaders of Christ. Our playbook, as you would say, is the Bible. And so it is. And Bishop Scott, you use the same exact thing I was going to say, that dating is like a comma. And courtship is like a period. You use the same exact analogy. And it's true. It's true. In other words, dating presents a man and a woman with a number of potential outcomes. In other words, one of the potential outcomes may just simply be companionship. Because there are folks that date just simply because they don't want to be alone. There are folks that simply don't want to be alone, so they quell that by dating, just dating. But there's no it's just dating. There's no means to the end. Then there are folks that do it for clout, as the young people would say. Bishop Wolliston, you know about the young people sayings, amen. they just do it specifically for clout. In other words, they do it, it's like a popularity contest. They do it for viewership. They do it for followers. Even in what we see going on with many of those that have high status, the singers, the pop stars, the movie stars. A lot of times you just see them dating casually, and they just keep dating just because they want to have a larger clout or a larger viewership. And that's not what it's meant for. A lot of people date strictly for sex. A lot of people just want the one night stand. Somebody wants somebody that'll just scratch that itch for them, but there is no end in sight. Now, the difference between dating and courtship is that courtship has one specific end, and it's marriage. One specific end, and it's marriage. Now, courtship is a philosophy. It's a philosophy, and I've heard this, I don't remember who said it, but it's based on principles. It's a philosophy that's based on principles. Bishop Scott, you just talked about it being a response. It is a response to God, and it's a response to God's will. God told man and woman that they ought to be fruitful and to multiply. He said it's not good that a man be alone. So courtship is a response to God and a response to God's will. And because it's a response to God and a response to his will, who needs to be involved? God. So that's the biggest difference between courtship and dating, because courtship is surrounded and it is focused on God. And God should be the forefront of courtship. And not only that, our families get involved when it comes to courtship, because of course the end result ought to be marriage. And if we have an aspiration to be married, then our families have to get involved. Whether you like it or not, our families have to come together. Our families have to get involved. Courtship is a philosophy that says that the relationship, as we said, should end in marriage. And courtship also understands that sex is a privilege. Sex is a privilege for those who are married. In other words, it's not a test drive. And a lot of times when it comes to dating, we treat sex like test driving. We go from dealership to dealership to dealership. I'm going to Ford, I want to test drive. I'm going to Kia, I want to test drive. I'm going to Jeep, I want to test drive. But that is not the principle of courting. All right. It is a privilege that is granted to those that are married. So those are the main differences between courting and dating. So yes, there's an absolute difference between the two, Bishop.
Okay, young man, let me put a question to you, okay, and also to the panel before we hear from the specialists that we do have on the line tonight. Are there any Christian dating rules that one should look for or live by? Any Christian dating rules that we should look for or definitely live by? How say you? And the panel can weigh in on this.
Absolutely. As in terms of Christian dating rules, anything that we do, there must be accountability behind it. Because as a believer, it is our duty to avoid something called temptation, which means that there must be an accountability factor, which is why I said God must be the forefront. Our family must be involved. And guess what? Also, our spiritual leaders must be involved, because they can advise us of how to do it, when to do it. Because a lot of times we think that we are strong enough to deal with certain situations. And we say, it's okay. I'm going to use Dr. Heather for an example here. No, she won't mind. It's okay. I know Dr. Heather and I are meant to be. So we're going to go out together by ourselves with no type of supervision. Next thing you know, feelings start to take place and things happen that are outside of our realm of control. So it is very important as a Christian that we are accountable for the things that we do and how we do it. So that's one of the things I would say.
Anyone else like to weigh in?
I would say one of the rules should be, the word says that two people cannot walk unless they actually agree. And so if I'm of the Christian faith and I live my life by the principles of the Bible, then I want to date someone and eventually court and marry someone who is of like faith. And we see this a lot in different cultures. And many times there are cultural differences, but when it comes to faith, many times if someone is marrying someone of a different faith, they will convert so that they will be of the same faith. And I believe that, as the Bible says, that you should love the Lord God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and all your strength, that the person who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, the two of you should be of the same faith. And I think that should be a number one rule when it comes to Christian dating. Have the same faith.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dr. Heather, and of course also with Pastor McKenzie. Same faith, same principles, same beliefs. Let me address the elephant in the room. No sex, period. That's what we believe as people of faith, because I've heard it all. Oh, we're going to get married. I don't care if it's the night before. You're not married. I've heard it all. It's okay. Says who? Now we're talking about people of faith. We're not talking about any other persons or people group. We're talking about people of faith. Dr. Heather said it earlier. We don't want the lines to be blurred. And I want you all to think about this, especially if there's anybody on the line that's going into this area. If I violate that sacred trust or principle whilst not being married to you, yes, it's next week we get married or tomorrow. What makes you think I won't violate that same principle when we get married? It's very possible, because a violation is a violation. Don't matter. Running a red light is a red light, regardless of the reason why you run the red light, and it's wrong. So we want to be clear. Again, we're talking about people of faith, and this is not something I just pulled out of my hat. This is Bible. Remember, Jojo? How can I do such a thing and sin against my God? So again, yeah, those are principles that we must adhere to. Again, we're talking about people of faith, and we're talking it from a biblical point of view. So yeah, sex is a big no-no regardless.
Let me just also add that the two people who are going out together must also be careful how they use the social media. Because today, one of the things I find among young people is this, that everything they put on Facebook. Facebook, every single thing. And one's got to be careful, especially in the Christian arena, what you put on that Facebook. There are many others, but because of time, we thank God that we have Whitney Coburn with us, Heart Hunters Love Coaching Realm, and we thank God for you, Whitney. I know that, listen, you have 1,000,001 things to say, so let me put the question to you, Whitney. Is there a big difference between dating and courting? How say you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, all of you, for having me back again. It's really an honor and a privilege to be among such wise and gifted spiritual leaders as yourselves. So thank you very much. I will start by saying that in my years of matchmaking and love coaching, I never used the word courting. This was something new to me. But the concept remains the same. And yes, there is a big difference between dating and being intentionally exclusive with someone in a relationship with the intention of being together long term. And oftentimes I have to help my clients and help people to really lighten up around dating. People have a tendency, especially nowadays, to jump right in. Some people on one end of the spectrum are just playing the field, not looking for anything serious, date. So that's one end of the spectrum. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have people that as soon as you meet, they're picking out kids' names and asking you if you want to get married, and asking you what your intentions are. And I will tell you that neither of those work for long-term happiness. So what I have learned and hope to share this knowledge is that when you're dating, you're really just getting to know people. The idea is to go out with many people. Online dating can be a good resource for this. You have to know how to use it and be very safe. But just like they said, if you're finding a place or picking out a car, you do your research, you go online and you learn about it. And that's kind of what online dating has become. So take your time, and in the dating process, be lighthearted, be easygoing. Don't jump into a relationship. Don't expect someone to be accountable when they're not accountable yet. I love what Bishop said about IRA, intentions, responsibility, and accountability. But you can't get that from date one. You can't expect that from someone when they haven't proven that or shown that or taken that on. That comes with the courting period, which is after that period of deciding that you're both going to be exclusive with each other. I think that's the modern term for it now, is exclusivity. There's dating where you can date multiple people at the same time. You're not being intimate. You're not jumping into bed. You're not jumping into a relationship yet. You're just being yourself, letting them get to know you, you getting to know them. But the accountability definitely comes later. That has to be shown, proven, accepted. And I would add one more thing when you're deciding who you want to date and who you want to be in a relationship with and eventually be with long-term: intentions, responsibility, accountability, and values. Values is such a huge thing. And I get people telling me all the time that they want someone with similar interests. And interests are great. Similar interests are great. But if one of you likes motorcycles and the other one likes crochet, it's not a deal breaker because you can have your own interests and do different things. But values, you absolutely want to share primary values with someone. If you value family time, if you value work success, whatever it is that you value, you want to ask those questions. Really take your time to get to know someone while you're in the dating stages. Be curious. Don't just jump in because they're cute.
Well said indeed, young lady. Don't just jump in because they are cute. I like that. Whitney, let me ask you this question here. What does courting really look like? What does courting really look like?
Oh man, I could talk about this all day. So a big part of the foundation of what I teach is masculine and feminine energies and polarity. And so I'm starting with this because courtship looks different from the masculine side versus the feminine side. And I will say that this is not a male-female thing necessarily, because all of us have both the yin and the yang. We have both sides in us. We have a feminine side that is nurturing, emotional, loving, caring, flowing. And then we have a masculine side to us, all of us, that is driven and wants to achieve and succeed and have structure and have purpose. But within a relationship, there tends to be polarity where there's a push and a pull. And in courtship, most often it's the masculine pushing towards the feminine, and the feminine is receiving, and the feminine is in a place where they are happy and content and relaxed. And I will say that most people dating nowadays are not in this dynamic because our society has kind of washed over this masculine feminine thing. And, it's both a gift and a challenge. We don't want to be where we were 50 years ago where we didn't have choices, but we also don't want to be where we are and not have choices. We don't want to feel like there's only the option of every woman being in their masculine. We want to be able to receive and lean back as well. So what does courtship look like? To me, courtship looks like you've both made a decision to be exclusive together. This has to be decided because otherwise you really don't know. You don't know what the other person is doing, because when you first start dating, it's okay to meet other people and date other people. So that's the first step. And then after that, it's really about having curiosity, getting to know someone. If you've ever had an ex that you've broken up with, relationships become so much more clear after you break up. So you think about it and you think, wow, what did I think of that person when I first met them? What did I think of them 2 months in? What did I think of them 6 months in? What did I think of them 8 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And it can change entirely. So it's just a reminder that you don't really know someone until you know them. So take your time to get to know someone and ask the hard questions. Go deep. Don't be afraid, because if you're afraid, then it's going to come out and then it will be too late by then.
Whitney, can I ask?
Okay, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
Whitney, can I ask you? I don't remember the terminology that you used, but you said a moment ago that the male is primarily pursuing the female. Did I get that right? Primarily?
Yeah, and it's not always that way.
I got you. So let me ask you this. Would you agree that by nature as men, we're hunters?
Yeah, evolutionarily speaking, men were the hunters, and you can see that men are built bigger and stronger for the most part, in general, on average, statistically speaking. And women were gatherers, they were creators, they were nurturers. Yeah.
So are you saying it is wrong for the male to continue that position, whereas the female becomes a receiver? Or because again, I don't think I would want my wife chasing me.
I'm a big believer in that things are not always black and white.
Okay.
There's not always right and wrong, yes and no. There's a ton of gray area. And I also believe in the 80-20 rule. So if a man is pursuing the woman during dating and courtship 80% of the time, she can pursue 20% of the time. She can text him back. She could call him every once in a while. You know,
At least pick up the phone.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't always have to be 50-50, but you don't have to play hard to get. And if you're playing, then you're faking. And you don't want to fake with anybody that you care about. You want to be real and authentic. And when you want to say something, just say it.
Got you. Thank you.
So Courtney, let me ask you a question then. Since it's the male that most of the time does the pursuing, okay, how do you feel about ladies asking the man, please marry me?
It's very
How do you feel about that?
it's very deep. You know, a lot of times when women are very controlling, it comes from a place of pain. It comes from a place of being hurt in the past. And so they feel that in order to prevent themselves from being hurt again, they control the world around them. And a lot of times, if you notice a woman that will ask a man to marry her, she's also making the decisions, calling the shots in other areas of her life. But I will say that that can work. You know, there is this polarity between male and female. And sometimes the woman does wear the pants in the relationship, and that's just the way it is, and it can work. But if it's a masculine man that wants to lead and wants to wear the pants, it's not going to work. It's going to fall apart because you're going to butt heads. It's like with salsa dancing. A woman can be a professional salsa dancer, know every step, know every move, be absolutely beautiful in her execution, in her dancing, but she can't lead because you have two leaders and you're just going to step on each other's feet. So even the most empowered, intelligent, capable, amazing women, it's so beautiful and pleasurable when you find a man that you trust enough that you follow him. You know, I'm sure that you guys can find an analogy in following God. You just trust and love, and you know that they're there for you. And so for women, what I teach women is when you can fully surrender and fully trust and let go with your man, it's such a gift. It's such a gift. But it's hard to get to that point for many of us who have been traumatized and maybe abused and had horrible situations. You know, it's a lot to get through to be able to surrender to that point.
Thank you, Whitney. Well said indeed. One of the things that I do like when I see two people courting is that they are still growing in Christ. They are still getting deeper in the Lord. That really, really turns me on. If I was a young man courting again and so forth, I would have to make sure that she is growing in the Lord. She's getting deeper. She understands the scripture more. And every now and then she just brings on a tongue. Should I buy a Honda? Should I buy a Honda? Something like that. You know what I mean? But one of the things you said, Whitney, that really got to me was the fact that there are stages in courting, because you began with the initial meeting, the attraction, and then you jumped onto the curiosity in the infatuation stage, and then after that, the enlightenment, and then the actual commitment. Yes, and that's one of the things that we should also remember, that they are indeed different stages. Dr. Heather Francis, woman of God, the question is, what does courting really look like?
Courting looks, I believe that courting should kind of be a mirror image of things to come. And I'm not talking about eschatology. But I'm talking about what marriage is going to look like. Because when you get to the stage that you're actually courting and you're in an exclusive relationship, I believe that that relationship should be almost like a snapshot of what you have to look forward to. And so for some women who are old school, that's him opening the door, that's him taking the lead when it comes to going to church together, shopping together, planning vacations, planning getaways, taking the lead when it comes to saving for the family, investments. How do you see money? There's so many things that are involved in what your marriage is going to look like. But one of the things that I think should be important, and I don't think anyone has really mentioned this, and I'm going to throw this in there. I believe that there should be a foundation of friendship. And I haven't heard that because over the years as a pastor, you get to meet a lot of couples, and I know Bishop Scott is an expert on this, but there are couples who are married, but they're not friends. And I think it's important that when you get to that courtship stage, that you have developed a friendship. And that you should actually really love and like things about each other, things that friends would like. And so even though you're falling in love and, you have, as I talked about, the dopamine, and you have the desire and the passion, and, you feel really good when you see the person, your oxytocin begins to move around in your brain and in your body. And, you have the feeling of euphoria, and because listen, let's be honest, love feels good. And so you should feel that, that less stress, and, you should feel happy and jovial, and you should be excited. And so I think that courtship should be that mirror image of, what do I have to look forward to? What kind of husband are you going to be? What type of father are you going to be? Do you get along? And we have to talk about this. Because I'm single and I have children. And so do you get along with my children? Is there a connection there? Do you even like children? Because how can you buy the cow and she's got calves and you don't want them too? Come on.
Want the milk.
Can't get the milk yet. But let's be honest, those things have to be factored in when you're thinking about, when you're courting and someone is going to be in your life. This man is going to be in your life for the rest of your life. And so there should be something there as far as a connection with your children. There should be, I think it was Pastor McKenzie that says your family has to get involved. And now in this day and age, in 2021, we're dealing a lot with blended families. And so you have to be able to have that connection with my children, and if it's, let's say it's the opposite, and I'm a man and you're a woman, you're going to have to accept my children. If I have a child previous to this relationship, there has to be that willingness to also mother that child or father that child, because there is a level of responsibility, because they will be spending some time under either your ex's roof and then also under your roof. So I believe that courtship should be that mirror image of, or the little snapshot of what our marriage is going to look like. And if it looks good when you're courting, listen, it's a home run for me.
Bishop, just to add to what Dr. Heather said in regards to courtship, you used the analogy of Joseph just a little while ago in regards to the fact that he was sensitive. To me, courtship means commitment, another C, commitment. And not to bash guys, but, you've been going back and forth with this young lady for the last 3-4 months, and you've passed the dating stage. Now everybody knows that you're an item. Now all of a sudden, they're not together anymore? Be sensitive. You've taken this young lady on a journey and you dropped her off on some exit to find her way back home. That's being insensitive, and that's not okay. If your intentions were not for that from the jump, leave her alone. She's not for you. And I find guys do this all the time. To me, that's what you have dating for. Date until, I'm not saying date forever now, but date until you find, okay, is this thing going from somewhere? If it is, okay, where is it going? Courtship to marriage. If it's not going anywhere, leave her alone. Let her go find somebody else who wants to take her on a journey, because men, we're basically saying to these women, come with me on my journey, jump on my train. And she's got to really ask, where we going? Don't be talking about my mama's basement either. You know, especially if she got her own house or condo. Where are you going? So I think men, and I'm not bashing men, but we have to be more sensitive to women and to their emotions. And because everybody sees us going back and forth, we go to church together, or we go shopping together, we have restaurants together, and people already assume or think that, okay, they're getting married. All of a sudden, we're not together anymore. We have to be sensitive to the point that we take into consideration not only our own needs, but hers also. Because that's what real love is about.
Well said indeed. Thank you much. Let me ask you both a question. Anyone can weigh in. How long should a Christian courtship really last? How long should it last? Now, hear me. You're in the church. I mean, should you be courting for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? How really does that look? So should there be like a time span? Talk to me.
Honestly, I think, Bishop, when you know, you just know. I don't think it should take 5 years for someone to get married. I don't even think it should take 3-4 years. I mean, I think you just know. And I don't know, I'm just going from experience as far as my mom, my dad, people who I've been around for most of my life. And most of them always have the same type of story. They knew when they met the person that was for them. It was just something about the person, something clicked, and they just had that connection. And it didn't take 5 years to say, okay, let's get married. So I think that if something is taking a really long time, maybe that's not the right fit for you. Or there can always be exceptions to every rule, because sometimes people can meet while they're in college and maybe they have like a 5-year plan. Maybe they're saying, listen, we want to get our degrees, we want to get our master's degrees, and then when we're done, we will move forward with our relationship. And so I have classmates that I graduated with that went through that. They stayed together all the way through college and graduate school, and then they got married after that. So I think there are exceptions to the rule, but I think overall, if it's just two people who, you know, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, I don't think it should take forever to find out if we're supposed to be together. I just think you just know, you know, there's a fit, you know, you feel good about the person, they feel good about you, and, you know, you make it work. And let's be honest, what is marriage after courtship? It is a promise to be committed to each other. And it's about commitment. And many times people say, oh, well, why does marriage work for this one and not for that one? Guess what? You make a commitment and you stand by your word. And the same way that we say that God is a man that he doesn't lie and he honors his word above his name, those are the principles that we live by as Christians. And so when we make a commitment to someone, our word should mean something. Our word.
Bishop, so
Yes.
I'll answer it this way. When you first met Jesus and fell in love with him, how long did it take for you to commit? I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, most psychologists would say that.
I'm being facetious.
I understand. Most psychologists would say that between 6 to 24 months, 6 months to like 2 years. Okay, once the people have met each other and so forth, within that span of time, most people do agree on that. But the question is this: so, okay, what does courting really look like? Apostle, tell us, man of God, because I know you've been through it.
Well, certainly courtship is where you really get to know the person even more, and there must be quality time spent. because it's not one size fit all in terms of the length of time, because sometimes people grow up in a different home, different culture, different upbringing, different standard, different values. And it's so important to know that person, because a powerful ingredient here is time. I think there's a song that says, "Son, take time to know her. It's not an overnight thing." And time is a very powerful ingredient when it comes to courting, because sometimes you think you know the person, and then even in marriage, it takes you years to really, really understand your spouse. So I think that's really critical and really important, because I hear Dr. Heather says that you will know. And I have seen a relationship where, I mean, light couldn't even come between them, and no space. It was tight. And then for some reason, it goes south. Divorces in the Christian circles too. Not that we get married to get divorced, but sometimes these things happen, abuse, different things happen. It's very complex. Two people coming together is not as easy as we think. And I think there must be a sense of transparency and time spent and what you like. And somebody once said, what's your value? What's your interest? And in terms of compatibility and so forth and so on. Because in the beginning, there's a saying that love is blind. You hear the term, they say love is blind, because in the beginning, so many things are clouded. Your emotion is going 190 miles an hour, and you think this person is the greatest thing that ever happened to you, and you want to get married tomorrow. And so time, like I said, getting to know the person. And I'm not saying wait forever. I'm not saying wait 6 years, but at the same token, I don't think it's a one size fit all. For some people, it might take a year. Some it might take 2 years. Different folks, different strokes. But I think courting is critical. Now, we can say, God is going to show me, and I'm going to pray. And if God said that's the one, that's it. But yeah, I still think we need to get to know each other and spend time with each other and so forth. That's very critical. I believe in time spent. And I don't think you will still even know the person fully 100%, but at least, you'll have an idea of who you're getting involved with.
Amen. Sometimes you can marry a person and be married for 50 years and they still surprise you. Oh, yes, they do. Bishop Neville, Wolliston, man of God, what does courting really look like?
Again, I definitely agree with the apostle and with Dr. Heather. I use the C word. It should be commitment. We're on this journey now. We've passed the dating stage. We've crossed over into another zone. Apostle just mentioned about time. Bishop, you will definitely concur with this. Back in our day, and even Dr. Heather, they gave us 6 months. If we were lucky, we pleaded, we'll get a year. And I think the idea behind that, they were trying to safeguard us from being tempted and falling into sin. I get it. I understand all of that. But I think courtship should look like where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish. It's going somewhere. It's not idle chatter. It's not the train in the station not going anywhere. It's going somewhere. And the place it should be going to, it should be to marriage. Like Apostle said, you're probably not going to know the person fully in that year or 6 months or even 5 years, or as you say, Bishop Scott, 50 years. But at least you have some ideas. And I will say this, not to jump off the subject, please, for God's sakes, red flag, red means stop. Red don't mean proceed with caution. Red don't mean slow down. And sometimes, maybe even, I think primarily in the dating stage, there are a lot of red flags. You call me, I'm not at work. I'm going to work late. I took a day off. Oh, I'm on vacation this week. You ain't got no job. That's a red flag. Open your eyes, be for real, because wherever, and Lord, wherever you find, where did Eve find Adam? In the presence of God, working. Wherever you find your partner, that's where he gonna be or she gonna be whenever you go looking for them. So I think, wrapping it up, courtship or courting should be leading. It's where we're going, and we're going on the right path because we're now friends, as I think Dr. Heather said. We've passed the dating zone. We're now friends, compatibility, things in common. We're moving to someplace greater, which is marriage.
Okay, so
Bishop
we
Wolliston,
Go ahead.
you said something earlier on, and I agree so far with most everybody on tonight. About if it's not working, the brothers should leave the sisters alone or whatever. But I still think that it's better to break up an engagement or a courtship than to have a divorce. So what I'm saying is, if you're in a relationship and you just mentioned it, and you saw the flag, even though it might hurt families, friends, or whatever, because emotion is powerful.
Yes.
I think you better break it off during courtship or even engagement than to break it off during a marriage, which is a divorce. When children are involved, properties are involved. And that's why courtship is like a gauge. I'm not saying to sample this one today and sample tomorrow and have 5 courtships before you're married. But what I'm saying, if it's not working, you don't have to go through it because you don't want to hurt somebody's feeling. I'd rather a broken courtship than a broken marriage.
Apostle, I totally agree. But here's what we're asking. What is the difference between dating and courting? Now, if I'm in the courting zone now, that means I've gone through the dating period, however long it is. Truthfully, yes, I may see some red flags, but we've gone to another place now. There's a lot of things that I should have seen in dating, whether he's this or not working, or she's this, or he's still got a side, whoever. And so for the guy, you're coming over into another zone now. You just mentioned you're dealing with her emotions. Be sensitive to this. Now, I agree that it's better to break off for an engagement than to have a divorce. But why would you take it so far to an engagement that now you got to drop her? That's not okay.
Mr. Wolliston, if you see something, it doesn't mean no, I've gone too far that I can't go back. Oh, I'm engaged to her already, so I got to go through. What about if there must be some break dealers or breaking point? What about if she's seen somebody behind your back? Do you still have to go through with it? What about if he's seen somebody behind your back? Do you still have to go through it because we finished dating, we're long into the courtship now, we're getting close to marriage, so I have to go through? I'm not saying that you have to go through if there's something that is detrimental or life-threatening. You should stop it before you get into the marriage.
Understand. But again, I'm saying, listen, if we're dating, and I don't know you have a side dude, is a problem. All I'm saying. Or what have you. You don't like to work, or you can't work, or there are some things that are not deal breakers, like cooking, who cares, or cleaning or whatever. No big deal.
Right.
To some. To me, it's not a deal breaker. I'm not a big on food. I like my oxtail and stuff. Well, however, but what I'm saying is, in dating, that's why it's dating and not courtship. When you cross over now, you're in a different zone, and it's not. And I understand what you're saying. I'll repeat myself. I understand what you're saying. It's better to break it up than to go into marriage and have a divorce. But you shouldn't have to get to that place to figure out, oh man, I don't like this. That should be for the dating. Then you walk away. But I get your point.
Yeah, and I agree with you with the most part. But I was just drawing that point.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay, listen, one of the things that we have forgotten is this now. The two people may belong to the same faith, but sometimes cultures differ. Okay, you have a woman that's born here in the United States and a gentleman that's born in Trinidad. And so, or a woman that's born in Jamaica and the gentleman is from here. And you have cultural differences. Does that play a part? You bet your bottom dollar. And that's something that we have to also discuss, because you'll find out that there is indeed a difference between the Europeans and the Americans when it comes onto dating. First of all, the dress code. I grew up in England, and let me say this, that's why I'm always, most of the time, like this, the culture and so forth, you know what I mean? So there are many, many differences that we could get into. But Pastor McKenzie, what does courting really look like? Young man, you should be an experienced person with this.
No. The experienced one is the apostle, man, and bishop. I am new to this stuff. All right, but what does courting look like? I believe that courting should be first and foremost intentional and deliberate. It should be intentional and deliberate. It should not be forced. And a lot of times, even in church, sometimes we get to the place where we force people to start looking and dating and courting because we say, young lady, you don't see that your age is falling off the calendar and this and that and that. No. It shouldn't be something that is forced. It should be something that is intentional and deliberate. Number two, and I said it earlier, it should be accountable. In other words, when you start this courting process, it should be done in an environment that helps us to defeat temptation. Listen, children of God, temptation is very real. I don't care how many languages of tongues you speak in. Temptation is real. Those tongues will not come to you when you see something that you ought not to see. You will forget those tongues, all right?
Keep it real.
Keeping it real. A lot of times we act so sanctified and all the Holy Spirit will keep me. You put yourself in that compromising spirit and in that compromising position and see what may happen to you. So it's important to be accountable. Number three, it should be serious. In other words, courtship should be done when both parties are ready for marriage. In other words, there must be a level of maturity. In other words, if you just graduated from high school and you still have Similac on your breath, it is probably advisable that you do not enter into courting. It's probably advisable that you don't enter into courting. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Your time shall come. Another thing, courting should be authentic. In other words, there should be a period of realness. It must be genuine. This is the time when genuine bonds are built. In other words, it should not be built on lies. If you are 5'3", stop telling her you're 6'1". If you know you have a negative balance in your bank account, stop talking about you're a millionaire. Cut it out. Be truthful, be genuine. Honesty, thank you. And the last thing I'll say is that courtship should invite wise counsel. They should invite wise counsel. Psalms 1 and verse 1, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. So when we are entering or venturing into courtship, wise counsel must be utilized. Individuals like Bishop Dr. Herbert Scott and Bishop Wolliston and Apostle Rojas and Reverend Dr. Heather Francis should be our go-tos before we make that step. We must consult wise counsel, Bishop. God bless you.
I told you he was experienced, definitely. Now, let me ask you a question, young man. What about holding hands? The two people are dating and so forth. Now, what about holding hands? Talk to me.
Are we dating or courting? What zone are we in?
Okay, let's say dating first and then into courting. Okay, talk to me. Holding hands. How do you see it?
For me, I know Pastor McKenzie is going to answer. But for me, I know Pastor McKenzie is going to answer. In the dating zone, I would say no, because this is just me. Because I don't know if we're going to cross over into the courting zone. Holding hands, emotions are involved, feelings are involved. This is my boo, this is my babe, whatever. And then come to find out, but yeah, we're like, getting this connection going on. So this is just me.
Bishop, you talking about holding hands to pray?
Man of God, you know exactly what I mean. Okay, what do we think about holding? Now, also remember this, that the Bible said we should greet each other with a holy kiss. Okay, we are breaking up. I mean, you're going home and I'm going home. Embrace, are you allowed to? How do you feel? Because remember, as pastors, we have to tell our people the do's and the don'ts.
Yeah.
And that's important. Okay, so think on that. Meanwhile, you're thinking on that, let me just put this question to Whitney. And the question is, Whitney, how do I know when a dating relationship has reached the stage of courting?
It's a great question. And I'll start with a response to something that was said earlier. I just want to elaborate on it a little bit, because it was said that you know when you know. And there's so much truth in that. Absolutely. You can know when you know, but sometimes you think you know and you don't know. And so it can be really difficult for people to tell the difference. They're like, oh no, I know. And then they don't really know, because they don't see the whole picture yet. They don't know everything about this person yet, or they are in denial about certain things, or not wanting to ask the hard questions. Really taking, we live in this world of go, 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 go. I've got this scheduled, and then after that, I've got this scheduled. I've got this church service, and I've got this for work, and this project, and this for the kids, and the activities, and blah, blah, blah. And you just go, 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 go. We need stillness. We need silence. We need time to check within, to check in with the spirit, to check in with our bodies. We have an intuition. We have a gut. Your gut will tell you if you listen, but you have to stop and be still enough, without TV, without movies, without games, without apps, without your phone. We really, really need that time to be able to know when we know that, and my mom used to tell me, you know when you know when you know that you know that you know when you know that you know.
She never explained it though, right?
Yeah, and it's there's also a lot of layers that get put on us throughout our growing up and even our relationships, these layers of protection, defense, guardedness. That you could have an amazing partner right in front of your eyes, and you're like, oh, I don't know, this old thing, this guy, I don't know, he's not that great. And they don't see it because they're guarded, they're walled up. So there's no one size fits all advice for people. Some people need to slow down, back off, and other people need to wake up, hurry up, get to what's in front of them. So it really depends on the person. But I went down on a tangent. Can you tell me what the question was again?
The question, Whitney, is this: we only have 5 minutes. How do I know when a dating relationship has reached the stage of courting?
I would say when you've both had the agreement that you're both exclusive. I would say that is the main determinant.
Okay, now let me say this, that I personally have at least a good 15 questions to ask. So I believe that this is a subject matter that we should visit again. And I say that from my heart, because the thing is, the more we speak is the more certain things are coming to me and to you also, I'm sure. But we have heard a lot. We have said a lot. Reverend Dr. Francis, after hearing what you have heard, young lady, what should we take away from this conversation tonight?
Well, first of all, when it comes to love, we have to remember what love is. And based on what we believe, I'm going to go back to the word. Love is patient. We have to remember that love is kind. Love always protects. Love always trusts. Love hopes. Love perseveres. And lastly, love never fails. In knowing that, you have to remember that you're beautiful, you're handsome, you're worthy, you're important, you're special, you're unique, you're wonderful, you're talented, and you are irreplaceable. So you have to be careful when treading down the road of dating, courtship, and marriage. But in looking at it, don't look at it in black and white, because you can't just give up on someone because the situation is not ideal. Understand that great relationships aren't great because they have no problems. They're great because both people care about each other enough, and they care about the other person enough to find a way to make it work. And that's called commitment.
Beautiful. Apostle Rojas, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Yeah, I think it was really a healthy conversation. I also just want to say this, though, that for those that are listening out there, and you may not be mainstream Christian or whatever, that there is hope. You know, we don't come across here like everybody's squeaky clean and no one have never mashed an ants or made a mistake in life. You know, Jesus met the woman at the well. She had 5 husbands, and the one that she was dealing with wasn't even hers. And there was a place for her. We're not condoning or compromising, but we want to let people know, even though you're messed up, you're hurt, you're wounded, you're bruised, you're damaged goods, you know, there's a place for you. There's something called restoration, grace, forgiveness. And I think there's a place and a seat at the table for everyone.
Beautiful, man of God. Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston, sir, how say you?
Yes, Bishop, great conversation, and I hope we can continue it. Briefly, I just want to say my conclusion is this: whether male or female, if you're getting involved with someone that will lead to ultimately marriage, make sure he or she has an IRA. They're intentional, responsible, and accountable.
Beautiful, sir. Okay, Pastor McKenzie.
Bless you. I will actually answer this question by answering the last question. How do I know it has reached a stage of courtship? And I want to encourage the ladies, because a lot of times they get taken advantage of. When he expresses his true intention, when he seeks permission and receives counsel from spiritual leaders and family, when you two are exclusive, when he makes sure that you get home safe, when he courts your family too. Yes, he will court your family too. When he serves you, when he respects your limitations and is willing to wait, when he pursues you, even when you give him no assurance, and when he prays for you. God bless you.
Man of God, where did you get all that experience from? I want to tell your father.
Apostle Rojas.
Okay, now Whitney. Okay, what should we take away from our conversation tonight?
Oh, there's so much wisdom in everything that's been said tonight. But one thing that I would add is courtship is about an intention to marry, being together exclusively. And before you get to that point, you're just dating. And just dating, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You can't expect someone to be something that they haven't agreed to be yet. I think that people need to take the dating experience a little more lightly, have fun, go out, be friendly, be open-minded, ask the hard questions, really take your time to get to know someone. There's a baseball analogy of gripping the bat too tight. And I think a lot of people jump into dating and relationships, gripping the bat too tight, holding on to this one and only, and, you know, just relax, take it easy until it becomes something real that you can hold on to.
Okay, well, this is Bishop Scott tonight, taking it easy. As Courtney said, I am definitely taking it easy. Listen, we just want to thank God for the panel tonight that did a tremendous job. Thank you, Courtney, for weighing in and answering these difficult questions. We want to thank God also for Philip Reed, CEO and the owner of Phoenix National Business Group. This is Bishop Scott, your host, saying good night from the Bishop's Corner. See you next week.